Dave here, coming to you talking about they're taking down another statue. The Teddy Roosevelt statue at the Natural History Museum. Wow, in New York City. They're taking this thing down, as we've seen a number of statues coming down. Again, we saw George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, of course Columbus was a big target. Even Cervantes, the great author, they took down a Cervantes statue. There's also a saint in California, I believe, over the weekend that was taken down. So we've got another one. The great Teddy Roosevelt. Well, he's just not good enough for today's morality. I got a story here out of the New York Post. By the way, I'm also going to comment on the DACA ruling, because many of you had a lot of comments here on our Facebook page, so I want to highlight a few of them. I'm coming to you live from Clearwater, Florida, and I was thinking about that. I don't think I've ever said where I am specifically, and I don't think I've ever asked all of you who are watching where you are, where you're coming from, or where you're viewing this. So it'd be great. Of course, we have this. Just go ahead and comment below. This is what I want to do, is have a conversation with all of you. So don't be shy. I know many of you watch, but many of you are shy. So I want to have a conversation about what you think about all of these topics. So if you're not afraid to venture out, say maybe who you are and where you're from, and then your thoughts on this. Another statue coming down, and some people call it 1984 or whatever, and nothing is exactly as it, because in 1984 it was a tyrannical government, and here is a very different. So everything is unique. Anyways, got a story here from the New York Post on this Roosevelt situation. Teddy Roosevelt statue to be removed from Museum of Natural History. Now, if I just read that headline earlier, I would not have called it natural or national. I don't even know what I said. Anyways, the Rough Rider will soon dismount. The statue of Teddy Roosevelt at the entrance of the Museum of Natural History in Manhattan will be removed amid widespread protests over racial inequality and police brutality in the United States, as the New York Times reported on Sunday. The statue, depicting a former president on horseback while flanked by a Native American man and a black man, has stood at the museum's entrance since 1940. The museum, which is privately run but sits on public land, requested that the statue be moved, and the city agreed, according to the report. And here we go from the president. The president of the museum says, over the last few weeks, our museum community has been profoundly moved by the ever-widening movement for racial justice and has emerged after the killing of George Floyd. So we watched as the attention of the world and the country has increasingly turned to statues as powerful and hurtful symbols of systemic racism. She added, simply put, the time has come to move it. So they're getting rid of Teddy Roosevelt, our president, war hero, and essentially is the depiction as a colonizer, a white supremacist, if you will. So he's done, and that made me think. And I'm certainly not the first one to say this, but what about? And the question here, what about Teddy Roosevelt? So he's done, and then where does it end? And it's not. Is it going to end with statues? What about other monuments? Mount Rushmore comes to mind. And look, we've already seen statues of George Washington, as I mentioned earlier, Thomas Jefferson getting torn down. So it's really not all that far-fetched to bring this thing up. I mean, let's look at this. We've got George Washington, right? Slave owner. So he's done. Thomas Jefferson, slave owner. He's done. Teddy Roosevelt, colonizer and white supremacist. So that's 3 out of the 4. So they all need to be destroyed out of the Mount Rushmore. Abraham Lincoln. Now you might think that the man who freed the slaves is safe, but no, because as I found today, you can find this on Snopes.com. In September 1858, in a debate with Stephen Douglas, in Lincoln's opening remarks, Lincoln expressed his opposition to social and political equality between the races. So Lincoln is no good. So we're gonna have to destroy Mount Rushmore. Now South Dakota's a long way, but if you are interested in seeing this national monument, maybe plan a trip this summer before the weather turns, because Mount Rushmore could be gone. What do you think about that? as this continues to roll on. There really is no end in sight because no statue of anyone is good enough to June 22nd standards of morality in 2020. So everyone else has done or said something bad or unacceptable, and even people now are no good either. So I don't think we can appropriately honor anyone because they've all done or said something that is offensive or wrong. So we really shouldn't really have any statues or monuments of anyone because they must be perfect angels if we're going to commemorate some of the good things that they may have done. They must be perfect. So bye-bye Mount Rushmore. I don't know what the what the security situation is on there. I'm assuming they're keeping an eye on this. But say goodbye. Say goodbye to everybody. Say goodbye. Marcy Maloney says disgraceful. And I'm assuming you are all aware that this what I've been saying here is dripping with sarcasm. So he's gone. Yeah, I mean, really, how do you defend? So by any standard, right? How do you defend any statue of anyone who did anything? Like even say a war hero, right? I mean, should we really make a statue of a war hero because maybe he was mean to his wife, maybe he thought the wrong things for his time? Maybe maybe he didn't. I don't know. Just whatever. It doesn't matter really what it is. Because the standards are always going to change. So whatever's going on now on June 22nd in 2020, we can maybe erect a statue of someone now. But then, come another 50, 100 years from now, we're going to have to tear it down because that person believed something that is unacceptable to the people later. So it's all done, guys. American history done. And I was joking with some of my coworkers earlier this morning. Maybe we should call this show "Dispatches from the Second American Civil War" or something along those lines, because this will not stop. They are coming, and as I flippantly dismissed Washington and Jefferson as slave owners without mentioning their accomplishments, but that is the argument. That's it. It doesn't matter what else they did. So they're done. They're canceled. It's over, guys. So, excuse me. So yes, keep an eye on this. And the Roosevelt's gone. This is not. We're farther from the end than we are from the beginning. We've got a long, long, long way to go here. All right, that's all I had on Teddy Roosevelt. I wanted to talk to you about or highlight some of your comments on this immigration thing, because I noticed many of you were fired up by our post over the weekend after Supreme Court defeat. Trump to take another shot at Dreamers. This comes from InformedAmerican.com. And Rodney and I talked about this on our show on Friday. If you head on over to our YouTube channel, our Get Informed America podcast, check that out because we did a deep dive into this topic as well as some other news of the last few days. So please go ahead and check out our YouTube channel. But yeah, so the argument here was essentially the Supreme Court said, because we know Obama did the DACA program on his own without approval from Congress. It was an administrative thing. And so Trump simply said, okay, we're going to remove it. We believe that that President Obama acted illegally, unilaterally protecting the DACA kids, those basically who came in as minors. Came in illegally in the country as minors, which basically gave them a temporary amnesty. The Trump administration removed that as a way to bring Congress to the bargaining table to do some kind of legislation on immigration. I mean, goodness gracious, Americans have been wanting this for decades. Immigration reform, stop illegal immigration, and possibly, and if you look at polling, maybe even reduce the numbers of legal immigration, as the American people want it for very long, which means you will never get it. So that's how it works. And the Supreme Court said, in a majority opinion written by Justice Roberts, who Senator Cruz later accused of playing games with the court, because after all, we got Obamacare, like it or not, because of John Roberts. In a similar situation here, they basically told the Trump administration, it was kind of illegal what Obama did, but we didn't like the way you removed it. You didn't quite dot the I's and cross the T's in a way that we would have liked. So DACA has to stay. Now Trump is the DHS Secretary Chad Wolf told Meet the Press that the administration is going to try again and end the plan within 6 months. I mean, time's running out here. We've got an election soon, so it's time to move on this. And of course, how quickly those 4 years go by. So, so I'll get to your comments here. Also, before I go on, I noticed there was a couple of comments on the Roosevelt thing. One from Priscilla Hume, who says, it's the destruction of America, forcing communistic ways and globalization onto America, obliterating Western civilization. Well, Priscilla, Western civilization was bad, so it all has to go down. What else am I supposed to say? Luis says, how in the world? This is not what I want. He was a great man. Shame on those that are letting this happen. Pretty soon they'll take down Martin Luther because of what he did in his personal life. Yeah, Luis is starting to get it. Good grief. This is not what most of us in this country want. Where is law and order? Law and order is bad, Louise, and maybe it comes from Western civilization, so we got to get rid of that too. I mean, we can't have peace in the streets. We have to have violence. We have to have looting, burning, and tearing down all of our history. That is what's right and good. I mean, I think we all need to get with this program. Right. So let's move on. So I wanted to highlight those. On the subject of illegal immigration, these DACA kids, well, they're not kids anymore, but protection for these dreamers. John Patrick says there is a difference between dreamers and invaders. Just saying. Learn to be legal. Yep, definitely want people coming through the legal channels. Timothy replies here, they come here through the proper channels or just stay home. Sean says, an immigrant who wants to assimilate, an invader wants change. And John Patrick says, especially when illegals come into the U.S. say they are leaving oppression. But come on to our communities and recreate what they say they are running from. So, yeah, I think John's basically saying, you come to America, it's basically an assimilation argument, so I understand there. Ken Johnson says, except for the dreamers of people born in America and legal immigrants, but somehow their dreams are not important. Yeah, what about my dreams, or our children's dreams? They're dreamers too. If you're native born here, you're lame. You're not good enough. We need to bring in people from other countries. They're the real dreamers. Sue McMahon says, my grandparents were dreamers. They came to America in the early 1930s legally to follow their dreams. So there you go, Sue. Maybe those are the real dreamers, right? Your grandparents. And we got one here. Okay, so Jackie Floyd says he wants Congress to actually make a good law to address this, and Congress won't do it. He must do so by executive order. It might force Congress. He's not against dreamers, but wants the Congress to act one way or another. They've done this since Reagan. So where's the failure here? And is Congress really going to do anything? I don't know. Are they going to do anything? As I mentioned earlier, Trump used this DACA thing as a bargaining chip to try to bring Democrats to the table. Essentially, I'm going to undo DACA, so that way you Democrats come negotiate to protect DACA. This was going to be the thing, and then just nothing happened. And it went to the Supreme Court, and I think most of you, like me, thought this is a no-brainer, an open and shut case. The Supreme Court's going to agree with the administration, and of course not. That's why. Well, you can figure it out. Go and then Candace Petchold says, "Hey you, hey you mother effers. Our children have dreams too, and I'm tired of our tax dollars going to people who have no right being here." John says, we want and need Mr. President Trump for another 8 years. Come on, 4 more years. I can hope and dream, can I? And another couple agreements here, looking for another 8 years. William says, not all DACA came here with parents, some came alone. Yeah, we saw that, right? The unaccompanied minors, coming from Central America, thousands of them. And Pamela says, okay, you have dreams. Start off with going through the immigration process like all the other dreamers did it so legally. And then Priscilla continues, then learn civics, apply for citizenship, be legal. Aren't you ashamed to take everything and not contribute as a citizen? Do what is right. Do it legally, like everyone else. So many of you have the same sentiment here. You know what? Do it legally. If not, go home. It's the sentiment I'm getting here. And then comment here from Michael. It says, dreamers, Mangiati, dreamers. Trump is your friend. He's trying to force the Congress to solve your situation, which they refuse to do. Then this is not political. And Joe replies, Joe Hollen, and says, they've been living here and getting everything for free, and they get set up when they are told their free ride in leeching is over. No, get your asses across the border. So I think we're getting the sentiment here. And then here's one. Judy says, too bad your parents brought you here legally, but there is a right way to get here legally. And this is their parents are illegal too. Yeah. So and I think, I don't, maybe, there is a compromise somewhere. If a child who's brought here, but on the other hand, the parents knew what they were doing too, right? I mean, there's no consequences. So, what do you do here? The parents knew very well when they brought their children into the United States that they could be subject to deportation, get deported and sent back to wherever their country of origin. I mean, that was a real risk. You can't just be like, well, I came, now I'm here, so you can't do anything because I brought a kid. That doesn't seem right. And certainly we're talking rule of law. Forget that. So one other thing I wanted to bring up to you about this idea of, because many of you, there was a lot of comments here, and I think I only read one or two, this idea of a fiscal burden, illegal immigrants, fiscal burden. Now, on this topic, I thought I would kind of look around, and if you search around for, taxpayer, because I believe President Trump, and this all comes from, not all comes from, but President Trump highlighted this in the previous campaign and some of the comments he made about illegal aliens taking tax money. And if you search, the first 2 pages of Google results will tell you how much illegal aliens pay in taxes. And they do. They do pay billions of dollars some of them pay into Social Security through having a tax identification number, even though they may not have a valid Social Security number. That some of that money does go into the pot. Of course, they live and work here, so they're paying other taxes, like if you pay rent, that does count as like a property tax indirectly. And if you buy things at a store, you're paying sales tax, that sort of thing. You fill up your car or truck with gas, you are paying taxes, and that is essentially what you'll find. However, what's not as easy is to find what might be sort of on a net basis. So if any of you guys want this information, I want to share it with you. This comes from a report, I believe, from 2017. So it's just a little bit, couple years late. But here from the Federation for Immigration Reform breaks down the cost of illegal immigration to taxpayers. The net cost is $116 billion annually. Now, and it does say, and you can go on, their website is fairus.org. And this has a very, very detailed breakdown of this. And so what they find is that illegal immigrants, undocumented, whatever you want to call them, they do actually contribute to nearly 19 billion per year. About 15.5 of it goes to at the federal level. 3.5 billion goes to state and local taxes, totaling 18 billion. However, it is netted out by the federal cost of nearly 46 billion and nearly 89 billion in state and local, all totaling. Actually, this one's been updated since. Now I'm looking here, 100. So now the number is up to 100. So this must have been 2018. 135 billion, roughly. We're rounding up. Total national cost. This is total government expenditures on illegal aliens, undocumented immigrants, whatever you want to call them. So if you ever hear this argument that they pay taxes, yes, they do. But on a net basis, the latest number here is a net loss, a net drain, if you want to call that, net less contribution of 135 billion. That's per year. So just some numbers there. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me. This one went a little bit longer than I expected. We got this Teddy Roosevelt news, and I did want to highlight some great participation and strong thoughts from all of you about the Supreme Court DACA decision. So thank you all for watching. Of course, I want you all to head on over to informedamerican.com, subscribe to get real smart news in your inbox. every single day. Just head over to the site, share your email, and you'll get our newsletter every day. Also, as I mentioned earlier, head on over to our YouTube page. We've got a lot of great content, podcasts, informational videos. I think you'll find all of it very, very useful. All right, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.